couple of places where I just feel like women are not getting served in the way that we need. First and foremost, mindset, Sandi. So many of us were raised to just not even talk about money, let alone think about money and growing wealth, right?
Wow. Ladies, today I'm joined by someone who blends heart strategy and a real life wisdom in a way that women everywhere need right now. Leah Hadley is a senior wealth advisor, mediator, certified divorce financial analyst, and the founder of Intentional Wealth Partners and Intentional Divorce Solutions. After navigating her own divorce, adopting 3 children, and rebuilding her life and business from the ground up, she created the Empowered Sisterhood, a community helping women build lifelong confidence with their money. I can't wait to dive into that. Leah is here to talk about aligned wealth, intentional planning, and how women can make braver, clearer financial decisions. Get ready. This conversation is going to shift in a new way that you think about your money and bringing you back your power. Leah, welcome to the Slay Your Day podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Sandi, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it.
Yes, I am so excited to have this conversation with you. I think it is so needed, really just giving the education and power back to women so we can make informed decisions.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation that so many women stray away from, unfortunately, which
Mhm.
really holds us back.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of that, in all your years of having your practice and working with women. But, Leah, you say that wealth is created through alignment, intention, and community, not perfection. So for the women listening who maybe feels overwhelmed or maybe even behind with her money, what is something that you want to share with the community today? Maybe like, where do you even start?
This is such an important question, and so many people are sitting in this space. So, if you are somebody who's sitting in this space, you are absolutely not alone. So, let's be clear on that. But we share what I call the intentional money method in our Empowered Sisterhood program. And the intentional money method really looks at where have financial services missed the mark in providing support to women to really build that financial confidence, right? And a couple of places where I just feel like women are not getting served in the way that we need. First and foremost, mindset, Sandi. So many of us were raised to just not even talk about money, let alone think about money and growing wealth, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that we can't even have these conversations, the fact that these are like things that are happening behind closed doors and like, dark rooms or whatever in your mind, right? That really holds us back in a really meaningful way. And so I think initially, where do we start? It's how do we even relate to money? How do we think about money? When I think about money as a tool. It's not positive, it's not
Mhm.
negative. I just want to know how to use it and use it well. That's how I help people build wealth, right? And I think that anybody can learn how to use this particular tool. But where we
Mhm.
hold ourselves back is maybe saying, maybe you're somebody who says to yourself, I'm bad with money, or you've heard somebody over the years give you a hard time about your spending, or maybe you've dealt with debt and you have some shame around that debt, or you have
Mhm.
fear around investing and not knowing, where to start and all of that. But really acknowledging wherever your starting place is in terms of how you think about money and kind of where the holes are is a really
Yeah.
important place to start, because that's where we can really figure out, all right, where can we make some real moves?
Yeah. And it's so great to have this conversation. And I love, obviously with the Slay Your Day community, there's so many women that listen into the show. And I think that we're not having this conversation enough. And I think another, powerful question to ask is number one, knowing that this might be a scary conversation or a new conversation. How does someone start to even breach this topic? Maybe with their partners, maybe they are divorced and they're navigating this for the first time. Like, I love that you said, by the way, that money is a tool, because I also view that as the exact same way. It is a tool. It's something that you can use to better yourself, to give yourself experiences, to open up possibilities. And so how can planning and really like opening the door to these conversations, how do you see this really when it helps women in particular, help to maybe reduce stress and overwhelm that comes with it?
Yeah, this is such a powerful thing in a relationship, right? Money is
Mhm.
one of the top reasons why we have conflict in relationships. And a lot of us just were not raised in families that talked about money. So how do you even open that conversation with your partner, right? I always
Right.
encourage people to open it in a really soft way. And that is, talk to me about your experiences growing up with money, right? We're not talking about actual numbers. Let's not talk about like the things that are going to trigger arguments, but how do we just kind of open up the fact that like we may be coming to this conversation about money from very different places. And those
Mhm.
experiences, however we were raised, or the experiences that we've had with money as we've grown up, are going to impact the way we relate to one another, the way that we can talk about money. And I think it is fantastic for people to have somebody be responsible for different roles within a family, right? We're not all trying to do
Mhm.
all the things on top of each other, right? So I'm
Right.
not somebody who says you absolutely both have to be on top of each other with the budgeting and all of that. But you do need transparency, right? Having those conversations, being on the same page, knowing like, okay, if I'm spending over X dollars, what's the threshold at which we have to have a
Mhm.
conversation? And like, let's get
Yeah.
on the same page with those things. So that way it's not a source of stress, right? It's not a source of conflict. We have some clarity around how we actually deal with these things. I really
Yeah.
encourage people, especially who are in a relationship trying to manage money together, to sit down at least once a month and just have a conversation, right? And it
Yep.
doesn't even have to be like, especially if this is an area of conflict in your relationship, you can start it very simply with, how did the last month go? What went well,
Mhm.
right? Where were the challenges?
Yeah. These are
Even I'm
great questions.
right. And even I remember when my kids were young, I used to do, I used to actually be much more on top of my budget, but I had to be at that time in my life, right? But what used to throw me off every single year was summer camps, right?
Yeah.
In my head, summer camps were in the summer, but that's not actually when you pay for summer camps, right? Usually you're going to pay for them in like April, but I didn't have that in my plan. And so I would
Yeah.
go through the year and then like my budget would be thrown away off. And I actually like screwed this up a couple of years in a row. But doing that exercise of saying, okay, like, wait a minute, let's take a pause. Like, what went well
Mhm.
and where were the challenges? Okay, well, I hadn't planned to make those big deposits for summer camp. So now suddenly I'm like, okay, I'm more aware of that. I know for next year, I need to have money set aside by this
Yeah.
month in order to make these deposits, what have you. But it's that simple exercise of like just taking that step back and saying, like,
Mhm.
where's the challenge, what's not going well, but also
Yeah.
what is going well.
Ladies, can I be real with you? I'm 38. I get Botox. I'm a busy mom and I do not have time for a 10-step skincare routine. That's why I'm obsessed with Liviand. It's a simple 4-step skincare system that actually works. It starts with a purifying cleanser. It removes the day, the makeup, and the mom life chaos, leaving my skin clear and fresh. Then I go to the vitamin C brightening serum. Instant glow even when I've had zero sleep. Next, I use the hyaluronic restoration cream, a total hydration boost that keeps my skin plump and smooth all day long. And finally, the firming cream. This one's the secret sauce. It visibly tightens, plumps, and renews your skin with the soursop leaf and fruit extracts, the dual peptides, and fruit stem cells. Basically, it helps me stretch those beauty appointments for months. Because as we know, moms deserve skincare that's simple, effective, and makes us feel amazing in our skin. Head to soursopnutrition.com and check out the Liviand Skincare System. And don't forget, use code SANDY20 for 20% off your purchase. Liviand Skincare, aging on your terms.
I mean,
Yes.
so many people really are making a huge effort when it comes to their finances and their financial journey. Celebrating that with your partner is so empowering. And it's
Yeah.
just such a nice thing to be on the same page, know that you're working toward the same goals. And so I just love that for people. Now, if you're on your own, that really is so, it's like having community, having accountability, having support, having somebody you can bounce ideas off of is just so valuable. It is hard to be on a financial journey alone. I know when I first went through my divorce, I had 3 young children. I was so grateful at that time in my life. My mom was still with me and she was my sounding board. I could talk to her about anything. She was somebody who was open to talking about money, which I am so grateful for.
Yeah.
A lot of parents aren't, right? But I think that's why I'm so inspired and excited about the Empowered Sisterhood community, because here we are in a safe space. You don't have to go it alone, right? You have
Yep.
these women who are surrounding you, lifting you up, increasing your financial literacy, but also asking the tough questions that need to be asked.
Yeah. And I want to dive deeper into this. Actually, I had a bunch of questions because I think you made so many great points. And I'm like, man, this is really so good to dive into. So before I ask you this question, I want to mention, I love the idea of what you said about having the monthly check-ins, because I'm all about the monthly check-ins and having that organization and built into the calendar. So I love that. And I love that you said making it not just like, well, where do we go wrong or where do we spend too much, but like acknowledging where you guys were on the same page and on the same team. I think that's so, so powerful. And then I also love the other thing I wanted to mention before I asked you about the sisterhood was I think so many women were not raised because it wasn't like kind of taboo to like talk about money or maybe even just avoid it because it made you feel like emotional or shameful or like those emotions were coming up. So I love that you're normalizing it. Like that to me feels so expansive. And the fact that like, this is where I want to roll into this empowered sisterhood, because you're having the conversations and it's not taboo to talk about money or to talk about investing or to talk about normalizing this conversation.
Yeah, and it really is just having the language, being able to ask the questions, to talk things through is so powerful. And it really is, part of the wage gap that we see is women not asking for more money. That's reality, right?
Yes.
And so we want to make sure that our members are feeling really confident and asking for more money when it makes sense to do so. So making sure that they have the resources to do that, making sure that like somebody's going to role play with them, right, Sandi? A conversation is really uncomfortable. If maybe, I was just talking to a woman about this. Her father's gotten older. She is the sole inheritor of his estate. And he wanted to make sure that she kind of had an idea of, but they didn't talk numbers. They didn't talk like anything specific. And she's like, Leah, I'm so overwhelmed. Now I have this weight on me and I know. Yeah. So like, okay, we need to have more conversations, right? Like she needs to make sure that she's having more conversations with him, but having somebody that you can really have that sounding board and say like, what do I really need to know? What should I be asking? And all of these things is so powerful. And it really is. It's just talk, Sandi. It's just talk. But we stop ourselves so often because you are exactly right. So many people are raised either you just don't talk about money, right? It's just a taboo subject. Or, people believe that if you're focused on money, you're greedy. That was something that I had to work really hard on my own mindset around recognizing, hey, if I want to have a big impact on the world, like you need financial resources to do it, right? Like I'm not somebody who gets excited about like fancy cars and things like that. But when I think about the kind of impact I can have, suddenly it's like, all right, speak up, right? And so I think that is so empowering in that shift and knowing that like we can actually be in the driver's seat when it comes to building wealth, taking the steps that we need to take, and that we get to make the impact that we want to make, right?
Absolutely. I love that so much. And, we were talking about the empowered sisterhood. What made you come up with this? Because, I think that being in this space, you probably saw a lot of gaps that, again, not having conversations or just having more women understanding, there's going to be a big wealth transfer happening in the next now to the next maybe 10, 15 years. Yes. So I would love for you to speak more about what is the empowered sisterhood? What are these conversations? And maybe some of the aha moments that these women are getting out of the conversations. Can we just talk about how bedtime used to be for us? Oh my gosh, you guys, I was hanging off one side of the bed. My kids were laying sideways across the entire bed. And my husband, he was literally falling off the bed. Don't even get me started on the stiff necks. We were actually at the chiropractor more than we were sleeping. We just thought that we had to deal with it until we found Alaskan King bed. Now we can actually co-sleep without the kids kicking us all night long. Everyone has plenty of space, and my husband finally stays in the bed. And we all wake up feeling refreshed, like we actually slept the whole night. because we did. If you're a growing family like us, this bed is a total game changer. More space equals more snuggles, less stress, and so much more quality time. And that was the true reason why we fell in love with this bed. Trust me, you will never go back. So head on over to AlaskanKingBeds.com and use code SANDY for a discount. Wishing you and your family sweet dreams from my family to yours. Make sure you head over to AlaskanKingBeds.com.
Thank you for asking this question, because this is definitely my passion, and I'm so excited to share what we're seeing. But one of the things, honestly, that inspired me to start the sisterhood was the number of people, and this actually did really surprise me, who waited months and sometimes years to reach out to me. So they would, maybe have heard me on a podcast and been following me, knew they had financial questions, knew they needed support, and didn't reach out for a significant period of time. Now, here's the thing, Sandi. There's a huge opportunity cost when it comes to money, right? Like, there's that whole time is money, right? And so we always want to make sure that, especially when it comes to financial decision making, that you're feeling confident that you have the resources that you need to make those decisions quickly, so you're not losing a lot of money. In some cases, I've seen cases where people have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars just from being indecisive and not feeling comfortable, moving forward with financial guidance and that kind of thing. So the sisterhood is really about providing a container where you can feel safe to have conversations, to ask questions, to get resources. So that way, maybe your next step is to reach out to, maybe you had a financial planner with your spouse and that person wasn't even talking to you. I hear that all the time. And maybe it's time to make a shift, right? But you might not feel comfortable reaching out to that financial planner. We want everybody to feel comfortable having the conversations that need to be had. And they're conversations that need to be had in so many directions, right? Some of the things that we support our sisters in sometimes are dealing with their adult children, right? And having good, clear financial boundaries when it comes to your adult children. What does that look like, right? What kind of conversations need to be had? A lot of our members are in the sandwich generation. So they may be dealing with both aging parents, and maybe they're still dealing with kids at home or kids in college. What does that look like? And from a financial perspective, that can create a lot of strain, right? And making sure, what do we need to know and think about to help our sisters navigate this aging process with their family, right? And so, honestly, something different comes up every week. We have these coffee chats that I just absolutely love. We actually just had one earlier this morning. But what I love about them, Sandi, is there's no structure. There's no requirement. It's just literally a place to come for connection and conversation. And we talk about everything under the sun. We have some women in the group who are really working with their spouses on rebuilding a relationship around money, or kind of healing some of the conflict that's gone on around money. Some people, like I said, dealing with aging parents, some people who are recently divorced and managing their finances on their own for the first time. But the sisterhood is so powerful in just having space for these conversations, but it's so much more than that, right? We do a monthly financial coaching call where we can dive into any of the topics that we need to dive into. One of our members, unfortunately, she shared that her health insurance went up by $1,000 a month beginning in January, right? And so we're looking at, okay, most people's natural reaction is going to be, I need to reduce my expenses by $1,000, right? No, Sandi. I'm always a big believer.
Not with Leah.
We look at not just your expenses, but your income, right? We're always focused on intentionality. And even when it comes to your income, earning with intention and being in the driver's seat as it relates to how much income you can grow, right? And so it's two sides of the coin. We're looking at, how do we expand your income? How do we reduce your expenses so you can very comfortably deal with this additional $1,000 a month expense that wasn't planned, right? And suddenly, now our member who is dealing with this challenge is like, oh, there's more than one way to skin this cat, right? Like we have different tools that we can look at and different strategies that we can implement in order to deal with the things that, these are just the challenges that come up, right? This is reality.
And having someone in their corner that can help them navigate this, because, you're not going to a play date or to a cocktail hour or something, where these are the types of conversations that are going on.
Right. Exactly. But they're conversations that are so necessary, right?
Yes.
We have had clients who are thinking about retirement in the next 5 or 10 years and looking at, what does that mean for me? I want to get more serious about this, right?
Yeah.
So we have lots of retirement planning resources. So many ahas, I would say, though, Sandi, come from just when I hear our sisterhood members talking and I say to them, this is what I heard, but what if we just reframe it and think about it like this, right? And it's that money mindset. It's that
Yes.
I'm out of options feeling. It's that my income is limited. It's all of these limiting beliefs that we bring into the community. But now we're in a space where I'm going to call you out on it. And I'm going to say, why is it that you feel like your income is limited? How can we change that belief? What can we, and sometimes it's borrow my belief, right?
Right.
Sometimes you might
Well,
not be there yet.
absolutely. But I mean, that's the best way to go. Like, surround yourself with people who are already thinking and operating that way, so you can put yourself in that same mindset 100%.
Absolutely. And so we do monthly master classes for the sisterhood as well. And so these are all about increasing your financial literacy, feeling stronger in terms of your financial confidence. But this last one, really, this last month, we did one very near and dear to my heart. I lost my mom in July. And so, all of the estate planning conversations I've been having this year have been so much more meaningful in dealing with that experience personally. And so what we talked about during our last masterclass was all about legacy planning. And what does it mean not to just pass down assets, but pass down values? Like, what do we really legacy? Like, what does that mean in your family? And how do you make sure that those who are inheriting your legacy are prepared for it, right? And so that could be, financial education, financial literacy, but that might be more than that. It might be, getting them involved in charities that are meaningful to you, right? Or, depending on what that looks like for your family. But it was such a great conversation that we had after that masterclass, because again, these are the conversations that aren't happening that need to be happening, right? So we do a masterclass every single month to really lift up your financial literacy. And then we have the recordings available for anybody who joins. So you have a whole bank of masterclasses too.
Amazing. What a powerful library of information. And also, again, other women that are being educated on probably topics and conversations that they haven't ever been in before. And if they have, probably not at this level or, this deep. So I love that you're normalizing these conversations.
Absolutely.
So you talk a lot about intentional wealth. And I would love for you to share with the ladies, what are some habits or maybe even micro behaviors that the women can start implementing today, and something small? I mean, again, micro habits that help them long term.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I hear from so many people, I have no idea where my money goes. I might earn a significant amount of money, but I am not creating wealth in the way that I feel like I could be, and I don't know where my money goes. So first and foremost, building awareness around your spending habits is so valuable. And I think, and a lot of people don't want to do this, fine. But those little tiny journals and a pen in your pocket, in your purse, whatever, and literally write down. You stop at the gas station and buy a pack of gum. Like, what are you getting at the grocery store? Like, really, for me,
Man, everything.
everything you're doing. And it just brings so much top of mind awareness to it. Now, a lot of people will push back and say, like, Leah, I can do that in an app. I don't need to actually write it down. Yes, you can, but it doesn't bring the same level of awareness. But sometimes when we
Just
are
like your
working with,
goals.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it just depends. But sometimes when we're working with somebody on an app, what we might do is export the transactions and then sort them from high to low, or sort them, in different ways to kind of just look at, all right, where am I spending? It's just about awareness. So when we do this exercise, a lot of times people find they're still paying for subscriptions that they don't use, or their
That's probably a
teenagers
big one.
subscribe to this that they already have a family subscription for, or whatever, right? So you could even save money doing it that way. But what I really want you to do is look at, okay, if you look back at your spending, does it reflect what matters to you? Does it reflect what's important to you?
Mm,
If you are somebody who says, I really want to support small business, that's really important to me. When you look back at your spending, are you spending on Amazon? Like, where are you spending, right? If you are somebody who's
right.
really focused on health, what are you spending in terms of, like, how are you grocery shopping? Are you doing it in such a way that it's supporting your health goals, right? That is
Mhm.
what being intentional means when it comes to that spending. It's really about getting clear. We make so many financial decisions every single day, Sandi, that we don't put any
Yep.
thought into. It's completely
Yep.
mindless, just like go spend, whatever, some habits you might have. But if you just think about maybe one thing that you want to focus on and make an adjustment around, I know
Yeah.
when I first went through my divorce and I was really struggling financially, my kids were little at the time, I switched grocery stores. I went to a grocery store that
Mm.
had significantly, less cost associated with it. That made a big
Yeah.
difference for me. That was a choice that I made during that time. Now, I don't particularly care for that grocery store, so I don't go there anymore. But that's an intention, right? Now I can
Yes.
support, where I want to shop or what have you. But I think that's important is that we can be intentional with those decisions, and they can be micro behaviors, right? They can be
Yep.
little tiny things each day, but I encourage people not to focus on it all, to really look at one
Mhm.
thing you may want to adjust. The most common one that I see people is either like carry out food service or like
Yeah.
shopping online. Those are the two most
That's what
common
came to
ones.
my mind when you said that, when you said about the groceries and just making a shift between, you could probably look at your bank statement and say, what is my grocery shopping to Uber Eats ratio? And look at because I mean, even for me, I cook it a lot at home. I probably cook 5 nights a week and my husband barbecues once a week. But I would imagine that for a lot of people, it's an easy click, click. Same thing with Amazon, right? I am a huge, like, that is my weakness where I'm like, in the cart, add to cart, purchase. So, especially during the holiday season, it's
Well,
just
and
there,
then
right?
most people are using an Amazon credit card when they're doing that. And so all they're saying on the
Oh,
credit card is just Amazon, right? So
oh,
sometimes we have people go back through their order history on Amazon. Again, it's about that
yes.
awareness. Like, what am I
So
actually
good.
ordering there, right?
Right, right. I love the intentionality of this because whether it's your finances or your relationship or your health, bringing that intention to what you're doing, it also gives it greater purpose.
Mhm.
So, to your point, are you spending money on the things that you really want to be spending on, or just because it's like that in the moment you want the whatever it is? So,
Right.
I love the intentionality of this exercise. So we are going into the new year. At the time of this recording, we are just about 3, 4 weeks out from 2026. So I want to know from you, Leah, what are the top 3 financial moves that you can recommend to every woman right now that's listening for her to incorporate into her life, regardless of the income or the season, that's really going to help her to be more intentional and just make smarter financial decisions in the new year?
Yeah, I would say my top one would be to get really clear on your goals. And there are
Mhm.
no goals that are too big, but we need the clarity around them to know what we're working toward, right? And so, such
Mhm.
a big part of financial planning is that strategy and action. But so often, Sandi, people sit down with me and they're just like, I don't really know. Or maybe they do know, but they think like it's too big and they can't necessarily accomplish it. So they're not even going to say it out loud, right? But the clearer
Mhm.
that you can get on your goals, the more likely you are to take the steps that you need in order to achieve those goals, right? And so when we're talking about goals from a financial planning perspective, we want to get as clear as possible in terms of actual dollars, timeline, right? But I would say the most important thing is, why does this really matter to you? And make sure, just
Mhm.
check in with yourself and make sure that it's actually your goal and it's not somebody else's, right? Because so
Yes.
often, it's keeping up with the Joneses or, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
But making sure that you are clear on your own goals. Now, during the month of January, we're actually doing a free challenge. It's a whole
I was just
month.
going to talk about this.
We're doing a
You read my
reset.
mind.
Yes, we're doing a reset. And so one of the things that I talked early on about is the importance of mindset, right? and getting your mind right in order to take the actions that you need to be able to reach those goals. And so that is going to be a really, really powerful time to take a step back and do some reflection and see, where are you coming from? Where are you stopping yourself? So that way we can get rid of those blocks and having you get to where you want to be. So really focusing on your mindset, I would say, absolutely, absolutely critical. And then the big thing that we are always talking to our clients about this time of year is cash planning. It's not sexy, but the only way that you lose money when you're investing is if you sell when your investments are down. So we never want you to be in a situation where you have to sell when your investments are down. So we try to be very strategic around liquidity planning, making sure you have appropriate savings in place, making sure, that your savings are still earning as much as possible, but you're not taking any risk with it. So that way you're prepared to take advantage of opportunities. I always tell people, when everybody else is scared, especially my clients, when everybody else is scared of the market, that's when I'm going to pick up the phone and you're going to be like, I don't want to hear from you. And I'm going to be like, this is the time when we want to put money to work, right? When there's opportunity available. But if you don't have the money set aside in order to put it to work at that time, then, you don't get to take advantage of those opportunities. So we want our clients well positioned to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves.
That's amazing. Such great tips. I want to go back real quick to the 30-day money reset challenge that you're launching in January, because I think every woman listening, look, January is the time, we all know, new year, new me, new goals, all the things. And what a great opportunity to take a look and have these conversations. So who is this for? What can they expect? Why should they join? What inspired you to do this? Give us all the details.
Yes. So many people set financial resolutions every year, whether it is to get out of debt or to build up their savings or to hit a certain amount in their investment account, whatever that might look like for you. And so often they fall off so quickly. And I just, again, believe that it is so often because we're not in the right mindset in order to have the success that we want to have, right? And so January's challenge, it's not about restriction. It's not about, forcing you to stop spending so that way you can save all this money. But it is about building that awareness. It is about really helping you to understand the full intentional money method. So that way you can start implementing it in your own life, looking at, where are the weaknesses? Where are the strengths? What can we build upon? And where do we need to fill in the gaps, right? The reset is really for anybody who is serious about wanting to build wealth, to make changes in their relationship with money, that kind of a thing. And we have the free challenge. And then if you want support, we have a supported challenge as well. So making sure that you're able to really get as much out of it as you can.
Amazing. Well, Leah, thank you so much for sharing this all with us today. Again, talking about having these conversations, changing your money mindset, and also challenging us all to really look at where we're putting our money. We all work so hard and intentionally for our money in the first place. So looking at how we spend it and where we're putting it is really, really a great exercise to go deep. And again, surrounding yourself with other women who are having these conversations, going deeper. So where can the ladies connect with you, find you, and maybe also join your challenge?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, I am Watch Her Thrive. Watch Her Thrive on Instagram. That is a great place to connect with me. You'll have all the information about the challenge will be up on Instagram as well. But you can also check out our website, watchherthrive.co. And you can find out about the Empowered Sisterhood there, which is a great place for you to join us, get into these conversations. We would love to invite you into that community to be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, Leah, again, thank you so much for being here today. Ladies, reach out to Leah. She is a wealth of knowledge, and definitely check out her Empowered Sisterhood and the community. So until next time, ladies, make sure you go out and slay your day.